Vincent Lamar Carter Jr., born January 26, 1977. Welcome to the Beautiful Game series on Stunted Growth, where we talk about guys whose basketball game was just an amazing sight to see and deserve to be appreciated and documented. Not every player has a growth stunt or spurt story, but one that still should be told. Today, that guy is none other than Vince Carter. No, he's not the greatest of all time, never led a team to a championship, but for the namesake of this series, he's number one on my list for the most beautiful game ever. When the basketball gods got through with all the experiments, some that came really close, they sat down and got it exactly right when it came to half man, half amazing. Simply speaking of physical perfection as a basketball player alone, I don't think any hooper would disagree that he had it all. The perfect size at 6'6", 220 pounds, jumped out the gym with absolute ease, beautiful feathery jumper that he built on over the years that allowed him to have a 22-year NBA career, great pace for the style he played with and his wing position, big hands, had all the footwork, and to top it off, and what I liked most about Carter's game, was the rhythm he played with on the court. Nothing ever seemed ill-timed or out of character when it comes to him as a player, smooth as ever when doing anything out there, and did it with a superstar-like charisma. But no question, what he did best, and still to this day no one comes close, was dunk the basketball. I don't even think it needs to be stated who's the best in-game, out-game, or in the dreams dunker of all time. His dunks set the bar and changed dunking forever, picking up where Michael left off in the 90s. There's so much I could say about Vince Carter and so many examples to point to of the greatness he displayed over his basketball career in general, not just the NBA, while also acknowledging that no, he wasn't perfect as a player, as I and many would have loved to see him be more aggressive and play with a little more dog to him, or a different mentality about competition like Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, even Allen Iverson. But as far as how it looked, it gets no better than today's feature. He was the NBA Rookie of the Year in 1999, was an All-Star and All-NBA performer by his second year in the league, MVP candidate, and still the most popular athlete that ever came through Toronto. He put that franchise on his back from winning just 16 games the year before he arrived to a playoff and Eastern Conference contender in the early 2000s. He may not top anyone's greatest of all time, but his game was certainly beautiful to watch for these reasons. Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it. A natural born grace. One of the greatest skills and underrated elements of basketball from an individual point is pace. It's right up there, intertwined with rhythm and controlling your speed. As mentioned, the gods got it absolutely right with Vince Carter, as it's one of his best features and a good reason he visually has one of the most beautiful games of all time. It can also be easily confused with a player not being aggressive enough or seeming lazy at times, and a great example of this in today's game is Paul George. George can definitely make a case for his very own beautiful game feature, but one knock on him has always been his aggression or his killer instinct or sense of urgency. It's not that he doesn't have those things, but it's the other side of the coin when you play with a grace and pace he and a guy like Vince Carter does. Carter has played this way since being a dominant high school player, and not just on the basketball court. Vince Carter has an interesting amateur story, starting off a football player who broke his wrist in the 9th grade and effectively gave it up to play volleyball. For those that don't know, and this may just be my opinion, but as a youth, some of the best sports to play that can get you physically ready to play basketball are football and the underrated volleyball. Football gives you that toughness from being used to being hit and also bringing that same energy on defense, while the training to play football can take a player to his peak as an athlete. Name me one football player that plays at a high level in college or NFL that can't dunk a basketball. Volleyball helps you work on your footwork, IQ, knowing where everything is on the floor, and thinking about where to place the ball on a serve or kill. It's also where a player can develop timing and a grace where all-out speed is not necessary. Carter was the player of the year in high school in volleyball as a junior before focusing on basketball and leading his team to its first state title in more than half a century. He was 6'1" as a freshman and sophomore and hit his growth spurt the summer before his junior year, and all the big schools came calling. He was a McDonald's All-American, capping off his senior year, where his athleticism and unmatched graceful play was on full display leading into his career at North Carolina. He would float through the air and glide in the open floor, never seeming like anything he did was too difficult. As a curse, it's also one of the reasons he was criticized for not having enough aggression, because he just made it look so easy that you think he has another gear he can go to. As a shooter, slasher, and of course a dunker, Vince Carter's natural-born grace is why, in my opinion, he has the most beautiful game ever. A feathery touch. Another beautiful thing to watch about Vince Carter was the touch he played with, as the ball always seemed to roll perfectly off his fingertips, not just on his jump shots, but layups, even his passing. The main reason he was able to extend his career to 22 seasons was because of that feathery touch. That's one thing Father Time couldn't defeat. Vince Carter's probably still somewhere displaying his soft touch from all over the floor. Coming into the NBA as the 5th overall pick, one of the knocks on Carter's game was his deep shooting. It's not that he was a bad shooter in college, shooting 41% from 3 his final season, but because he did everything else so well, scouts had to balance it out with weaknesses, and one of those was the narrative he was just a dunker. He shot 28% from 3 his first season. Want to know what he did since then? Shoot over 38% from distance the next 8 years, with 4 seasons of 40 or more. He was also a very clutch player. Since '96, Vince Carter has made more game-tying or winning three-point baskets in the final 10 seconds than anyone. More than Dame, Ray Allen, Steph Curry, or Kevin Durant, according to BasketballNetwork.net. He also has the most attempts, and he and Ray Allen are the only two to shoot over 30% in those situations, with Allen slightly ahead of him. He's number 7 on the NBA all-time leaderboard in three-pointers, making him a deadly threat from outside all the way to his final year in the NBA, which again was why he lasted so long on that stage. Vince could have been retired and walked his way into his first ballot Hall of Fame selection, but he continued to value working on his touch, extending it as he aged away from his high-flying activities. I still remember creating players on 2K as a kid, and for my shooting form, it was no question Vince Carter's. If Vince Carter never dunked a basketball, his game would still be beautiful, simply off his feathery touch alone. The GOAT Dunker. Now to the meat and bones of why Vince Carter has the most beautiful game. He's the greatest dunker of all time. Of course, basketball beauty is subjective. I'm sure RJ Barrett thinks his game is beautiful too, but what's obvious is just that. When it comes to dunking, some might dunk harder, some take off further, some shorter so you respect it, and some may have even done it first. But none have dunked the basketball more beautiful than Vince. His slam dunk contest win in 2000 will be studied for years to come that set the bar for slam dunk contests from then on. Even his natural celebration of it being no more competition that he didn't just do for the camera, it really was over after catching a bounce lob from Tracy McGrady for a between-the-leg finish. It was so good Isaiah Thomas, a judge at the contest, jumped over the judge's table and got on one knee to congratulate him. The contest wasn't finished, but from then on, Vince had it sewed up. It would be the only dunk contest he ever did, making it that much more special. Of course, guys have taken it to another level, but Vince at the time was unbelievable. But it wasn't just dunk contest dunks. Vince flew through the air doing some unbelievable in-game dunks as well, like his double pump reverse dunk on the Pacers in '99. That to me is still one of the sickest in-game dunks ever. And who can forget his 2000 Sydney Olympics dunk over 7-footer Frederick Weiss that riled up the crowd and almost knocked Kevin Garnett out. For me, no question, it'll be a long time and take another all-time great to be a better, more beautiful dunker than Vince Carter. All in all, Vince Carter is a first ballot Hall of Famer for a reason. He played 22 seasons for 8 different teams and was everything from young, exciting, raw prospect to superstar and role player off the bench. All roles he played with professionalism and grace, never losing the beauty in which he did everything on the floor. Great player, great role model, and very beautiful game. Salute to Vince Carter. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.